It's called the Dorian mode, where we take the half step and move it earlier. And now we have, you'll recognize this as a bit of a minor. It's one of the minor scales, and it sounds a little sad. Here's the Dorian scale in C. Here's major. Here's minor. C, D, E flat. You can hear that. F, G, A, B, C, B flat, A, G, F, E flat. There's where we do serious music in a minor mode. All we've done is move the half steps earlier in the sequence. We can play. That's just for you. Bear with me. We can play it in C, of course, like the Elnian. Here's the Dorian. We just move the half steps earlier. We've got to get from one octave to the next. It's just how you get there. Where you put, in this case, you take the third and flat it, and you take the seventh and bring it down half a step.
So Don, is there a Corinthian? Ionian, Dorian, and Corinthian.
Hold that thought. We don't, but they are taken from Greek territory. Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. We should have. You can develop one. Here's the Dorian in D. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, flat, D. All right. Why is this easy to play? Do you notice anything about that wheel? Do you notice anything that it's avoiding? The Dorian doesn't use, if you put it in D, any key, here it is in C. I've got to worry about these flats. I put it in D, it skips all the black notes. And now, Don plays just that minor Dorian in a D. If it's in, here's C, here's D. Look, he must be working on his scales. He didn't hit a single wrong note. That's because all the white notes fall in this Dorian type of minor mode when you start on D. You do that by, in your left hand, getting your tonic where we are. It's a weird place to play. I stumbled upon that because I'm a little lazy and I was playing white notes and then I missed the C and played a D. But thought, this sounds cool. It's a little major, gets a minor sound. The Dorian. Last one, here's Phrygian. Now we're moving. Da, 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 da. Now we're going to do this. We're going to move the half steps even earlier in the scale. Thanks to our preschool for the visual aids. Listen to this scale. Listen to this scale and tell me what it makes you think of. C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C. Here it is again. Some people say this sounds a little Middle Eastern. That we're not used to that flatted second. Nothing we do has that there. Here's that again. Here's the Ionian major. We move the half step earlier. And even earlier. All right. And again, to get the Phrygian, this is going somewhere, we're almost done. To get the Phrygian mode, that weird assortment of flats, difficult in C, but in E, it's all the white notes. A different kind of feel. It's a minor, but different than the minor we're accustomed to. It's not our cultural minor. Sometimes they call this the third mode because to learn them, if you do the Ionian in C, Dorian in D, Phrygian in E, you can just use the white notes and learn those intervals. All right. Here they all are. Another. Yes. Yes, because it's that middle, because they use that and we don't. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. When we get to Advent and we have a couple modal pieces, O come, come Emmanuel, let all mortal flesh, they're also based on scales we don't normally use, and that's why they sound different to our ear. There's no Corinthian, what they call them when we're done for today, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, because they did the same thing. They move those half steps in different places to make your scale. All right. After falling out of use for centuries, if Megan Case watches this, I'll ask, because I think Tchaikovsky actually quoted a couple of these in the early, late 1900s. When was he? Late 1800s, with Russian folk music that had some similar scales. Until that point, none of our music was based. And then in the 50s, a man named George Russell, doing some church history research, said they used to do chants and make these chants based on entirely different modes. Scales that are based around things we don't even recognize. And that's what Miles Davis found out in 1959. No chords, he says. It gives you a lot more freedom and space to hear things. When you go this way, you can go on forever. You don't have to worry about changes. You can do more with melody. Really, that's this way rather than chords. Becomes a challenge to see how melodically innovative you can be. When you're based on chord changes, you know that at the end of 32 bars, the chords run out. There's nothing more to do but repeat what you have just done with variations. I think a movement, jazz, is beginning away from the conventional string of chords. There will be fewer chords, but infinite possibilities as to what to do with them. His musicians show up in the studio in 1959, and he has the music for them, and they say, where are the chord changes? He says, no, play in the style of this mode, is what it said at the top of the sheet. Or in this scale, and he gave them a Lydian, a Phrygian scale. Do your soloing over this, and we'll just go on forever and ever. The feel of Kind of Blue. What kind of blue is it? That's his great pun. It's a different kind of blue, depending what the scales are. And there's sometimes 7 and 9 minute songs based on, not chord changes, but modes. All right. When we live, we should similarly think linearly. Not be dependent on what happens to us. Here's job, here's marriage, here's kids, here's retirement, here's what I'm supposed to do with grandkids now. Instead, what is unfolding in us about who we are over time, the horizontal, the linear. Lead out with your own freedom. Now, there are helpful constraints. We don't have to be self-indulgent and noodling. I think that's what Christ and Christian faith gives us in love, in discipline, and how to live. It gives us some modes for being, forgiveness when we live. We don't need to be reliant only on what happens to us. To close up, look at your cover of your bulletin. Here's how jazz used to be and still significantly is, based on chords. By the way, do you know this song? Andrew didn't know it. I was surprised. So, here's the melody. The autumn. Now we end up here. There's a couple chords you could use. But what jazz was until Miles was changing these chords. That's pretty. Do you see the F end of the first line? It has a little repeat to the G, C. That's beautiful. Second ending of the second line there. On the second half, the A minor, the G7. Pretty. Here's the best part. The B, E7, and then these A's in a row. Talk about changing chords. That's beautiful writing. All those fit in the same note. Sorry. So what jazz was, this way, interspersing, changing out chords depending on your personality. Miles says after a while, so when you solo, of course, what the band is playing is just those chords over and over again while you're soloing. You're always figuring chords. Miles said we could do something different in using modes, a whole different way of being. I get bored playing piano. I get really bored. That's why I'm not better than I am. Because when I sit down at the piano, what do I play? I don't use music typically, but I play what comes off my head, and I've played all that before. And I sit at home when it's a Friday or Julie's not around in the evening, and I'm playing something I don't play for, and I stand up and do something else, go play with a cat. I'm not disciplined enough. This last couple of weeks, just to finish, as I've been thinking about the Phrygian mode in E so I can play it easily, I'd never come up with that. When I play E, I usually do this F sharp. I play it all the time, me mashing chords. When I try to discipline myself to not play that, do that flatted second. I suddenly find myself playing things that I've never played before. I find that very intriguing, that with some structure from the outside, in this case an ancient mode, by limiting my freedom, I'm able to be more creative. The one E minor song I know well, making stuff up, trying to stick to that odd arrangement of notes. And I find myself thinking, I love this. I'm going to work on vacation on coming up with an arrangement of They'll Know We Are Christians. Because if love isn't the thing that would tie us together with these strange Middle Eastern religions, I love it. I want to do our song in their mode. I'll let you know how it goes. Limiting myself so I could find a new way to be. Let's be people following Christ, not looking back in panic at what's happened, but aware of our own playful, improvisational life. What should you do? Norman and I talk about this all the time. What should you do if you make a mistake when you're doing improv? There's the A answer, is nothing. Beginners worry about it and mess the next measure up too. Or as Norman, I like to say, the A+ answer I think is you should repeat it, because then they'll think it's intentional. It's jazz. And when you screw up, do it a second time, they'll go, oh, that's different. Oh, look at he came back around. These are the lives we live in the graciousness of Jesus Christ, forgiving us that we can be creative, not reliant on what is always happening to us, but vibrant and expressive in how we respond in ways that no one's ever done before. Amen. Let's stand and sing.